You are one of the most incredible people I know. And today we are going to learn more about who you are and understand your background growing up into the foster care system, the experiences you've had with family members who have battled addictions, and ultimately how that's all shaped you into being the incredible woman that you are today.
Stay the same, 'cause you are the best thing that's ever happened to me.
My mama was a single mama,
Mhm.
5 kids. We all had different fathers. And that's like, she's no longer live. And so I'll probably get a little teary eyed because I miss her so much. I think what makes me teary eyed is when I think about like, she was like a baby and she didn't have a great relationship with her mama. And so she didn't really even know how to be a mama. And so it was no surprise that she couldn't keep us.
Mhm.
And all of us having different fathers and not a single one of them really involved was, I mean, like how impossible. And you had no support and she had a drug addiction. I mean, that's a lot.
What was like a couple of like maybe not highlight moments, but if you had like two shaping moments that you remember um, before you came to be with the Blooms from that early childhood stage, what would those moments be?
Two shaping moments? Yeah, I don't have a ton of memories from my pre-adoption because I was young. So, but there are moments that stick out to me, and I guess one of them is just a series of them, which is visiting my mama in prison. That was always really hard because not just the using of drugs, but also the selling of drugs, which in that culture where we were from, so many people sold drugs to get by, to have money, whatever it was. And I never particularly asked my mom why she did it. I just assume it was because she's trying to provide for her family like everybody else who sells drugs. Or that's just the way of life. That's just what you did. And I remember like it would be so hard to go and visit her in prison and see her behind the plastic, and you have to pick up the phone, and I those are memories that are like etched in my mind, and trying to understand in my little kid mind like why she can't come home, or why can't we like touch her. And there's this song, and I have not the best voice, but this is just a vivid memory, and it's a popular song. I never knew. I thought it was a prison song because that's how she introduced it to us. But it became something that when I would deeply miss her, I would sing it to myself as a child as like comfort. And it goes like, I don't like it, but I can't help it. Seems like I'll be here till my print's clear. Oh, you did me wrong. Now the county's got a hold of me. And I would just like sing that. I would just sing that and just like hope that I would get to see her every day. I would sing it, cry myself to sleep sometimes. I did that into my adulthood. Like, I mean, my 20s. So, And then the other I would probably say was a distinct memory is when we lived in an apartment and one the neighbor upstairs, she left her daughter with a man that she basically just met, and he raped her. And we were all downstairs, and she came out, and she was like 11 or 10. It was horrific, and her little sister was younger and like 4 or 5, and she played asleep, and thankfully she was safe, but he ran through our apartment and out our back door, and she got pregnant from that. But I remember that night she was in our apartment and in our bed, and my sisters, they put me by the window, and I was so freaked out. And why I remember that is I remember just watching the door, watching the window, just being so afraid, and like you could also just hear her like kind of whimpering in the night, and it was a memory that sticks with me because then in foster care, it was always like you watch the windows, you watch the doors, you don't know what's going to come at you in the night. You don't know if the people you're living with, because the state put you there, you don't know if they're safe.
How old were you when you were in foster care? Like, what was the age
Oh,
range?
it started young.
Like 7, 6,
6,
7,
5,
5,
7.
5
Yeah,
to
it
5 to
was.
8, something
Yeah.
like that.
So those are some of the.
Do you remember some? So you have some memory of being in some foster homes.
Yeah, I remember weird things like the white people who made us eat oatmeal. I was like, I don't know why. And yes, it
That's
matters that
funny.
they're white because they were always white.
Always
Mostly,
eating,
I had one
always
black.
eating oatmeal.
I don't know, but or the white people that I had that were called the whites, and yeah, I mean, I remember I hated foster homes. I hated them, and I think yeah, I think people don't often realize when they say that children should just be happy that they get a home to go to, that it's not their original home. No, I would have much rather have been in my original home than any of the homes I went to.
Even with all those terrible things taking place that you just mentioned.
Oh, 100%. Because I didn't know anything was wrong with my original home.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know until somebody told me, or until somebody would say bad things. I didn't know. I also didn't know that it wasn't a way to live. Like, oh, you don't have drive-bys in your neighborhood? I mean, the Jeffersons, like, moving on up, right? Like, it's like, oh, that was just a dream.
Right.
You know, that I didn't realize that was just like an hour away from me, or
Right.
even in different parts of Chicago,
Right.
it could have been a 15-minute drive. I had no
Yeah.
idea. So
That poverty was in your space, but
not
you could go
everywhere
10
around
minutes
me.
away.
I didn't
and
even know I was in
not have
poverty.
that. Yeah, right?
Right?
It was
Like,
just life.
sure, were there nights we didn't eat? Yep.
Mm.
Were there times where like we get food stamps and go get shopping, and then the food would be gone in a week, and we were eating off, living off of ketchup and bread sandwiches? Yep.
Mm.
But I didn't know that
Yeah,
that wasn't
that's just
normal.
what it was.
And so I think when I think about people in foster care who home children, in your mind, you're like, well, they should be thankful. This is, better than where they came from. Where I came from, I knew those people.
Mm.
They were safe to me. And in my mind, they never tried to hurt me.
Mm.
And definitely not intentionally. And
They loved you too.
they loved me.
Even if they didn't love you well.
Yeah, they loved me.
They still, you were their family.
And they were mine, and that's who I wanted to be with.
That's so tricky because it's like even though it's not good for you, and you're actually in harm's way, but to try to navigate that. And
Well,
man,
you're trying to navigate it as a child,
I was
right?
I wasn't even talking about you trying to navigate this. I'm just trying to say how society navigates that, because it's the child. You're like you said, doesn't know any better.
You mean how the system navigates it?
Mm-hmm.
I think the system gets a lot wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the child suffers profoundly because society and the system gets a lot wrong. And I think, am I thankful that I ended up where I did? Yes.
Yeah. So how did you end up with the family that ultimately adopted you?
So that was the summer of turning 9. I was with 3 different families in that summer, right? And that was a lot because every family has its own rules and expectations, and you're trying to just.
And that's crazy. 3 different families,
Yeah.
3 different homes, but no place feels like home.
No.
They call it a home, but every home you go to is not home.
Yeah. I hated every single one. I just longed to be with my family. Like I wanted to go home. And nowhere ever felt safe. It didn't matter that they took me to suburbia, like where you could, I don't know, where it would be considered just safe to leave your bike out, whatever it is. It didn't matter. I wanted to go home to my family. And how I ended up is I learned that my brothers lived close to me in this final foster home. And they would ask, my now parents, like, could she come? Could she stay with us? And all I know, my mom would have to tell you the story, but all I know is that eventually they took me to the zoo. And my dad was like to my mom, like, Laura, we gotta keep her. And
and your mom was like, whoa.
My mom was taking care of my 2 brothers who had a lot of needs, and sure. She was home, the one home primarily with them all day long, and my dad was working all day long. So another inner city child with significant needs, and it felt like a lot for her. But that's interesting that you bring this episode up, because on the way here, I was reading a post my mom made 13 years ago on Facebook. At a marriage conference that we attended with my mom and dad, and she was saying how it was about submission and how she didn't always perfectly submit, but one of the biggest blessings God gave was me in submission, and her submitting to my dad and saying, Laura, we have to take her. And so I thought that was really beautiful. But
because had she had her way,
yeah, there would be no us.
You would not have gone. You would have stayed put.
Oh, I don't know. Terry, is that her name? I couldn't stand her. Yeah, they put me with this black lady before them, and I hated it. I hated everything about that place.
Well, you say the difference that it did make of you being with your siblings.
Yes.
That changed your whole world.
It changed my whole world, yeah. And that's in part, like, we have our nephew who's in foster care, and when the agency, said, well, you can't take your nephew without taking his half-brother, I looked at you, I was like, will we take the half-brother? And you were like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, we'll take the half-brother. I understand especially how important it is if siblings can stay together.
Yeah.
It was a monumental sacrifice my parents gave me to be able to be with my brothers.
Yeah.
It gave me a piece of myself back that I thought was lost forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they were able to go together and you were separated from them.
Yeah. And they were my world. That's who it was. The three of us.
Mhm.
We it was my two older sisters and then
Yeah.
the three of us. And I am a proponent of if siblings can stay together,
Mhm.
but it has to be in the right household.
So if you fast forward now, I know you have a lot of things that took place, the blooms and things like that, but I think just unpacking one more piece, and that is how do you think all those aspects of your childhood impacted you as you raised your own kids and became a wife and became a mother? Were there any pieces of that part of your story that um, influenced your motherhood and your being a wife?
In therapy, I heard my counselor say we either become our moms or we become nothing like them. And I didn't need therapy, or I probably need therapy.
Hmm.
I think all foster children should be in therapy from the get go. Because I think had I been, I think perhaps when I had children, the world wouldn't have come crashing down because I went through a lot of postpartum, and some of that I think was this collision of like, which mom am I gonna be?
Mm.
Am I going to be the mom
You had
who's
two moms to choose from.
yes? Am I
Yeah.
going to be my mama who loved the best she could but had this addiction and she could never overcome it, and that caused us to be taken? Or am I going to be my mom who showed me what it means to be a mother, to care for children, to sacrifice? And I think it was like my head exploded, and I think that plunged me into a deeper depression and an identity crisis that I didn't know how to fix for a very long time.
What identity crisis?
I didn't know who I was. I didn't know.
Like as a mother?
Yeah, I didn't
Well,
know
and it maybe even makes sense because you didn't have a mother
in those
technically
formative
in
years.
those
Right.
early years.
Right. And I had babysat kids. I didn't really like
Mhm.
babysitting kids. But I did it, and I knew what love should look like. I love my little brothers. Like my
Mhm.
parents adopted two more little boys, and I mean they were my world too. And so I know how to love children. I just don't know why it felt so much more urgent when they were my own children. Like to figure out like you got to figure out what kind of mom you're going to be like right now.
Yeah.
And some ways, because I wasn't prepared for postpartum depression, when I started like not wanting to be around my kids, I was like, oh my gosh, am I becoming my mama? Like, is this the mama am I gonna be her? Am I gonna be her? Like, what's happening? That's what made me, I think, freak out. Really, it's a lack of education of what postpartum depression was.
Mhm.
But all that to say is eventually what I came to realize is I don't think my therapist was fully right about that. Both these women gave me a deep sense of identity and a sense of who I am and shaped me to become who I am today. And I think of my mama who gave life to me, and especially since she aborted the baby before me. And I will forever be thankful because she didn't have to. She didn't have to carry me. And I I think I pity her. I pity that she probably felt so alone, and she tried the best that she could with her circumstances and upbringing. And I think of all the trauma and the stories that I probably don't even know.
Mm.
Because I never asked until it was too late and she was too tired to like talk about her life. And then I think of the mom who adopted me, who had to also sacrifice her dreams and put all of that on hold to give us an opportunity that we never would have had, who taught me about God and God who shapes my whole life now, and who taught me that there's a whole different way of living and of loving and of caring for people and what it means to lay down your life for someone. And my dad, who's not here with me, but like he said yes to me and he wanted me, and I'll forever be thankful for him. And I wish he could see that, that I'm okay.
And he does. He can't see.
Yeah, I like to think that. But I guess I am the sum of my past with the hope of my mother's dreams in both of them. And I think that that's been a really difficult journey, but it's a really bright future that I've gotten to have because of two women and my dad.
Mm.
And so much of God.
Yeah. Well, your story, it's powerful because it does show that it shows how God moves, and you don't know how God's moving. You don't know the circumstances that he's moving in and through, and how he's going to bring people out of some very ugly, very human circumstances that's filled with depravity, and take them out of that situation and place them in a place, place them like where you are now. And
move down up.
but even though you carry some of that trauma with you, and that it doesn't define you. You're not a person who is sitting in the victimhood of whatever their past created. You have looked at it, you've walked through it and had to unpack some terrible things, but you've gotten to the other side of seeing God's grace moving in it.
And not everyone gets to have the ending that I do. I don't take it for granted because I was one of the really fortunate ones. Some people get horrific homes where horrible things happen to them repeatedly, and they don't find loving families. I mean, I literally hit the jackpot, and so much so because even then, my adopted parents, like, they let me know my biological family. I know them all. Yeah. That's how I got to still have a relationship with my bio mama and my siblings, and they encouraged and blessed, and that wasn't easy for them. That was a lot of sacrifice for them. But some people, some kids, many kids, they get ripped away entirely. And sometimes sometimes these children are left thinking that their parents didn't want them, or they didn't try, or that they were bad people. It's not often the case, believe it or not. Sometimes, yes, there are bad parents, and yes, children should be removed. But just in my experience, and then in what we've learned from having our nephews, like, the system does not tell the whole story. And even foster parents are not given the whole story about who these parents are that these children are ripped away from. And that just sits so yucky in my stomach.
And it played into, because one of the things, even as we did take our nephews in, because so you're battling cancer, you're heading into the red devil treatments. When we get the phone call that says you have to come and get these kids now, and it will always, I think that this will always be in my mind because my mom is driving down. She lives close to us. She's driving down in front of our house, and we're talking to her and sharing what happened. That we just got called to go and get our nephews. And my mom had the look that I think just about everybody would have on their face, which is, you're not actually thinking about getting these kids. You have enough on your plate. You are battling cancer, and now you're
It's all fair and wise thoughts.
and now you're actually thinking about getting these kids. And your response was, "Have you ever been in foster care?" And that statement, that question, "Have you ever been in foster care?" One spoke to your history with it, and also spoke to your fear of what could happen to the boys if they got one of the homes that you just talked about. That you don't know what's going to happen to them, and you asked that question, and my mom, she paused and said, "Well, let me know what you need."
which was very
It was
sweet
beautiful.
and exactly
Beautiful.
what we needed,
Yeah.
because
Let
she's
me know
right.
what you need.
It did not make sense.
It
It was
doesn't
not
make
saying,
sense.
it was not lies. But we know that we are safe. We know that our home is safe and that they're family. And
I think the other piece that always played in for me was, we know that the God that we serve has commanded us to take care of orphans.
yes, it's always been yours.
And in my mind, God will bless that. It doesn't matter how crazy it is. And we also trusted that you were only dealing with cancer for a season. It wasn't a forever. It was a season, and then you'd be healthy. And even though in the midst of it, it was very difficult, the thought was, you're going to get healthy. And if we didn't take these boys, it was now or never. And would we be able to move on with our lives, not knowing what happened to them? Because once they went to foster care, we probably would have never heard from them again.
How many families, their children just disappear forever. They're gone. There's no, like, even for me, I say I'm fortunate, but like my biological family was fortunate. Like they didn't have to ever wonder where I went. They knew. They could know our address. Like they always knew. And I'm not advocating for that for every foster family, but there are so many moms who carry these babies and then they're taken from them as babies or young children or even as teens, never to have a trace of them again. That's a broken system. That's a corrupt system. That is a misinformed foster parent. And I think for me, I couldn't live with knowing that, like, we could have taken our nephews and then we said no just because I had cancer, which is a understandable, really valid. Right. But then where would they be? Are they going to be watching the doors at night, wondering, And people say, well, Erica, then you're just playing God, because they could end up with a foster family like yours and they could get adopted into this loving home. Yeah. But they could also not. And trusting in the sovereignty of God. And this is what my mentor and my mom like had to remind me, like, trusting the sovereignty of God. If he was going to shut that door, it was already near impossible getting them here from another state. Then he would have shut that door, but he didn't. He kept opening up the doors that were nearly impossible to open. And so we kept walking through those doors. And I think unless you have ever walked the shoe of a child in foster care, you can never say what you think is in the best interest of the child. You have no idea. I mean, I actually do this sometimes to like motivate myself. I did it starting, well, yeah, with depression. Just like I thought of little 8-year-old Erica being ripped from her home and put with strangers. Like, can you imagine one of our children? Like those listening,
Jeremiah's 8.
imagine
That's wild.
your 8-year-old just like
Not
some
being in your house
stranger
anymore.
comes and takes that child. That child has no context of that stranger, of the
And they
car,
gotta
of
go
where they're
live in the home.
going, and they gotta go. And now they're gonna go to a new house or a holding place.
Well, I can
And
tell you how tough it would be because our kids wouldn't want to stay with people they do know.
yeah, they don't. They
Like,
really
you
don't.
think
They're
about
like,
people
wait,
that are like their friends.
we
They'd be
are their
like,
home.
right.
We are their home.
They don't want to. They don't want to stay there long term.
And
you know?
then they have no idea if you're coming in an hour, and then you fall asleep. Like I remember, I used to just stay awake as long as I could. I'd be like, "Are they coming to get me now?"
Mm.
And then when you realize it's the next day, and then you're there another day, and then those days turn into weeks, and then into months. Like, can you imagine? And then if you don't have a parent who's with it because of drugs or what, or maybe some kids they don't even get to see their parents, like, and then you just never see your parent again.
Mm.
There's a reason why so many kids who are in foster care or are adopted out have so many psychological issues later.
Mm.
That is a deep trauma. And yes, God worked through it and brought so much healing because of the family I got to be with.
Mm-hmm.
But not everyone gets that story. And we wanted to somehow be a part of these children's stories where perhaps they got that hope. Because I think that's what foster care should be about. It should be about giving hope to the child and to the parents who often get forgotten or who are often seen as monsters.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you these questions today to get some insight
Give me any
on to no warning. Just wanted to hear from your experiences in growing up. Give the people who are listening, whether there was one or many, an opportunity to hear how you became who you became. And
a lot of Jesus,
mhm.
a lot of prayer, a lot of parents who had to sacrifice, whether it was to give birth to me or care for me from the age of 9.
Yeah.
And God bringing the church along was huge.
Mm.
And I think it was also at a point every child, adopted or not, has to decide to make the best of the hand that they've been dealt. And I thank God that he helped me see that despite being dealt a crummy hand, that's what Satan meant for evil. But God, I have no doubt that what Satan meant to possibly derail me for a lifetime, because we see so many of my biological family still struggling. I would have been the worst of them. Shoot, I probably have like 15 kids by now, and I don't know how many baby daddies, but knowing my personality, it wouldn't have been good. But I think God took me to protect me, not to take me from my family, but to protect me, to give me a hope in a future and a life that is abundantly rooted in him. And he allowed me to still know my biological family, I think, as a way to show me, like, I'm not a taker. I'm a giver. And I'm giving you this blessing of a new home that is safe and where you are going to have stability and security and provision. These parents who are going to show you my love. And then he knit those worlds together.
You kept me every time I mess it up, and everybody says that things are bound to change, but I hope they stay the same, 'cause you are the best thing that's ever happened to me.